US today, there is a justice gap, where courts and the legal system don't have the capacity they want. But can AI be the one to help close that gap? Welcome to Clarity on Tech, a podcast powered by the Thomson Reuters Institute. I'm Zach Warren, the Institute's Legal Insights lead. In each episode, we dive deep into the future of the legal, corporate, tax accounting and audit, and government communities. On today's episode, we discuss how AI can reshape access to justice. What are the opportunities? What are the risks? And what does responsible use of AI look like in courts? Today, TRI's Rabia Butler breaks that down with three people on the front lines. Carlos J. Martinez, public defender of the 11th Judicial Court of Florida, Richard Miles, founder of the nonprofit Miles of Freedom, and Michael Samanchik, the executive director of the Innocence Center. Take it away, Rabia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rabia Butler, content strategist with Thomson Reuters Institute, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's conversation. I'm really excited about this one because I'm joined by three incredible guests, Richard Miles, Carlos Martinez, and Michael Samanchik. Together, we're tackling a question that's becoming an impossible one to ignore. How can AI reshape access to justice? And more specifically, what are the real opportunities and risks that we need to be paying attention to? Here's the thing. When we talk about AI in the legal space, we're not just discussing efficiency gains or the latest tech trend. We're discussing tools that directly impact people's freedom, their ability to find housing, their ability to secure employment, and quite honestly, the ability to rebuild their lives. The stakes could not be higher, and it could not be much more of a pragmatic issue. And that's exactly why I wanted to bring these three unique voices to the table. Carlos Martinez is a public defender navigating the crushing caseloads while figuring out how to fight to provide quality representation to each individual client. Michael Samanchik leads the effort at an innocence organization working to overturn wrongful convictions and restore justice to those who have been failed by the system. And finally, Richard Miles works with a reentry nonprofit helping people transition back into their communities after incarceration, no matter how brief. These aren't technologists theorizing from a distance or policy experts who are working to write papers. These are practitioners with their boots on the ground and hands on the keyboard, working directly with people whose lives hang in the balance, whose very futures could be changed. Their fingers are on the pulse of what's happening, and at the intersection of AI and access to justice, they are the leaders. Moreover, they're here to actually offer you a perspective that you won't get anywhere else. We're going to dig into what's actually showing up in their day-to-day workloads, where it holds genuine promise to expand access to justice, and just as importantly, where it introduces new risks and threatens to perpetuate biases that are already baked into our very complex systems. We'll explore what exactly is responsible use of AI and what it means when we talk about how high these stakes are. We'll also talk about what it looks like to navigate the tools in the system that are already strained and so often inequitable. So let's dive in a little bit. I've given giving all of you a brief idea of what these individuals bring to the table. And I think I've previously spoken with Carlos, and we had a whole episode about his position as a public defender and what he feels AI brings to this. Sorry. And we've given you a very good idea of what AI has brought to the table. But if you'd like, you can kind of introduce us to what your process is and where you are in the legal system, Carlos.
Sure. So in terms of, what our office does, we're the public defender's office, the largest one in Miami-Dade County. We have almost 230 lawyers, and we handle about 75,000 cases a year. And where we are right now with generative AI, we are definitely using the Thomson Reuters product of co-counsel. We also use Westlaw and the AI-assisted research tools that are available through that.
Richard, what about you? What exactly is your program and what do you do?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity, as always. My name is Richard Miles, and I'm actually the founder of Miles of Freedom. And Miles of Freedom is a holistic reentry service program. We're based in Dallas, Texas, and our prime objective is to provide services for individuals, families, and communities that are rebuilding their lives after incarceration. Those services include direct case management. We have a earned revenue social business that's baked into the program. We also provide food that addresses food insecurity. I think one of the caveats of this organization that I think is very important to note is I started this organization after I was wrongfully incarcerated for 15 years for a murder and attempted murder that I did not commit. And so the mission of Miles of Freedom, while it was birthed from an injustice, it still works within a system that tries to leverage, real law. And I love this opportunity to talk about AI more and how it's incorporating within our system.
And last but certainly not least, Michael.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike Samanchik, Executive Director of the Innocence Center. Want to start by saying welcome home to Richard and congratulations on everything that you've done. Very incredible that you've got yourself right back into helping others. My work is is doing what Richard had to go through, which is getting individuals who are wrongfully convicted out of prison. We get thousands of requests for assistance every year. And to date, we've freed 43 people who have served 650 years in prison for crimes they didn't commit. Just over the last 3 years, we've started to use co-counsel and a lot of technology, actually, because we've got very limited resources and limited staff. So this allows us to dive into more cases and help more individuals to try to get more people out of prison with the same limited resources we've had all along. So we're using it almost on I think on a daily basis. Our small team of 6 to do a variety of things, but in a large part, it's case review, it's grant applications, all sorts of things.
So we have this really large span and I guess a great intersection of what happens with the courts. But I guess the biggest question is what's the best way that you're seeing AI show up in your day to day work? And if you want, Mike, you can start.
Yeah, sure. So in my day-to-day work, we're using it. So when cases come to us, typically the case files anywhere from 1,000 pages to sometimes more than 10,000 pages. It's a lot of information to try to digest, especially for, again, as a small team of 6. So starting from at the outset, we're using AI to summarize this vast amount of information and tell us what to do with the case. There's typically pathways to freedom. They are new evidence if we can come up with it, false evidence, or maybe we're looking for prosecutorial or government misconduct in a case. And AI can help us narrow our focus to look for those particular issues. Then from there, we package together what we call a petition for writ of habeas corpus. It's a legal document and instrument we use to free a person from prison. And most recently, we put a couple of petitions together with some help from some Thomson Reuters staff. Andrew Schulman is one of those, and those are the documents we file in court that ultimately gets us back into court to present our evidence and hopefully walk somebody out. Even once we get to court, we're using AI at this point to help us draft and be ready to put our witnesses on. So we're writing our direct and our cross-examination questions. And we're sitting there in the courtroom with our laptops, analyzing what witnesses are saying and cross-checking to make sure that what they're saying is consistent, or maybe it's inconsistent if it's a government witness that we're looking to poke holes in that government witness's story. So it's literally, for us, it's a day-to-day use. And then, of course, I'm on the executive director. I'm writing all of our grant applications to look for funding. We're doing a lot of marketing, and we're using AI to do all of that, as well as we're trying to keep increasing those limited resources. So if we can increase those, the number of people on our team, we will. So it's literally infected isn't the right word, but AI is throughout our work.
So what about you? How are you seeing AI show up in your day to day work?
So the most basic way that it's showing up It's very similar to what Mike was saying, that he doesn't have the resources to hire additional staff, and this allows him to do extra substantive work. So for us, it's very similar. I cannot hire paralegals, and using particularly the co-counsel product, that is like a paralegal, having a high quality, experienced paralegal who can help review the arrest affidavit, can examine documents and evidence, can summarize records, can help with mitigation, looking at mental health, medical, educational, prison records, substance use, trauma information, and really assist the attorney on not only getting to know the case, but getting to know the client, getting to know what questions to ask of witnesses. We have depositions in Florida, in criminal cases, in felony cases, and it is very helpful for deposition prep to actually submit the documents, and then give some factual information and say what are some of the key things that I should be asking in this deposition. What is missing from the documents we've received from the prosecution? Did they jump to conclusions about, either probable cause or something else that we can actually delve into when we're questioning witnesses, either in deposition or at a motion hearing. So very similar to what Mike is doing, our attorneys are using it for drafting, for preparing direct and cross and checking what's happening. We recently actually used it for jury selection. To try to identify some of the things that the jurors were saying, and looking at that against research about attitudes, positions, and all sorts of things. And then the last aspect of that is we do check what witnesses are saying or what witnesses have said, because sometimes we do have retrials or we do have resentencing. So for a resentencing, it is very helpful to run through all the previous transcripts of all the previous hearings, and particularly on death penalty cases or cases where the person is doing life in prison. It is very helpful to go through voluminous information and identify where specifically a witness said something, a witness contradicted themselves, or contradicted other witnesses. And even though I just said that was the last thing, it's not. The last thing that we use is we do use co-counsel to check what the prosecution is saying in their pleadings. Because sometimes, let's just say they get creative at what a case holding is, or what a case stands for. And sometimes they get creative on factual information. So it does serve as a really good tool to identify contradictions, to identify misstatements of fact or misstatements of the law. And that way, you not only have a paralegal that helps you do that, you almost have another attorney helping you out. So that's what we're doing, and that's just one aspect that is litigation related. What I'll do is I'll get back to it, with another one of the questions on the promise of what AI can do and can further enhance what we do.
And finally, Richard, how are you seeing AI show up in your day-to-day work?
Yes, ma'am. It's a great question. And I think you might hear me say this a couple of times during the presentation. In our work, not only Miles of Freedom, but the Innocence Center, Miami-Dade Public Defender, the real thing is it's always a relationships versus a transactional experience, right? And I think that the individuals that we serve, be it that they are innocently incarcerated or rightfully incarcerated, they are going through an experience that pretty much desensitize them to society. So while AI is a great tool, we're very cognitive of the face-to-face interactions and relationship buildings. That's the foundation of the AI movement, right? And so with Miles of Freedom, and I look at how we integrate AI into our systems, the first thing is a cultural sensitivity. We work with individuals that have been actually guilty of crimes and are re-entering into society, and using AI to better translate our language materials so that individuals come in and they feel welcomed, making sure that even individuals that are hired, can help, translate and talk. So just being conscious that we serve more people than who we look like as an organization. I think another important point is in our case management, obviously drafting grants, really making sure our metrics, our outcomes, our datas, are aligned with, foundations and givens, obviously being aware of cultural shifts and financial dynamics that may impede on nonprofits. We want to use AI to see how we can be above the curveball on that. I think, and finally, our earned revenue, which is our lawn service, which was started in 2013. It produces about 10% of our earned revenue. Last year, we worked with over 3,000 individuals returning home from prison, right? And so when you're looking at that and you're looking at our lawn service, we use AI to determine our profit margins. Are we moving in alignment? Are we competitive? Making sure that we are efficient in our driving schedules. Using it. Are we taking? You using too much gas to get to a point? Really using it to better streamline. Waste that relates to profit that could eventually help the nonprofit out. So those are kind of like the dynamics in which we use AI in our case management and earned revenue or social business.
So, something of a rapid fire question here. What do you feel is the most concrete way that AI has the potential to improve access to justice for your particular clients? I guess let's start with you with this time, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most concrete way that AI can impact access to justice for my clients would be to give my clients access to something like co-counsel. Right now, they're relying entirely on there's probably 200, 250 lawyers at most in the entire United States that are doing wrongful conviction work. It's not enough for the potentially for the million people that are wrongfully incarcerated right now. To empower them to be able to put together even an application to apply for my assistance to better tell their story and come with some legal research would be absolutely incredible. And then if there's not a lawyer, if they do have to continue pro per into the courts, to be able to prepare some sort of legal filing using co-counsel or a similar legal AI tool to do the legal research and put something comprehensive together that can convince a judge they deserve a hearing would be a massive improvement on what we have now. What we have now is a law library that's often outdated, that they don't have daily access to, and that they don't have the legal training or knowledge or know-how to go in and use the limited tool that they have to gain their freedom. So just empowering them with an AI tool, I think would be a massive, massive improvement. And here, across the United States, there are prisons that have tablets where incarcerated individuals are sitting there with tablets that don't have the capability to have those tools there. I mean, the capability is there. It's just that the prisons haven't enabled those tablets to allow these individuals to do their own legal work. And so that's where I see a concrete way that AI can really have a massive impact. And I'm not talking just about innocence cases too. Like there are all sorts of legal issues that come up while you're in prison because you're continuing to live your life. You might have some family law matters that need to be taken care of. I mean, there's an endless amount of legal issues that arise while you're incarcerated. So I think that's really where the potential is that I see, that will really shift and change the system on a whole.
Carlos, do you want to go next?
Sure. I agree with what's being said, and look, the reality is, and I can tell you that many attorneys are extremely nervous as to what's happening already. And what I already see, because there are individuals that email me directly and they CC the assistant public defender that I've assigned to handle the matter. And in the last year or so, even more so in the last 6 months or so, the number of people who are emailing, clients who are emailing and posing really thoughtful questions about their case, about things to do on their case, that number has exploded. Now, attorneys get really nervous because they already have a high workload. But the reality is, this has the potential of evening out the system. And what I mean by evening out is if we can give access to co-counsel or similar tools to individuals who cannot otherwise afford to get that done, we will have more informed consumers. Which to me, if you're dealing with somebody that's informed, guess what? You, as the attorney handling that matter, you're going to get better at it because you're going to be prepared to answer questions and you're going to be improving because your clients are kind of forcing you to be able to be accountable to clients. Because a lot of times, look, the way the system has built accountability doesn't work. And what did the system create for accountability? We created appeals. But guess what? Appeals happen only and primarily on trials or on you have hearings that somehow you were able to reserve the issue for appeal. But guess what? At least in Florida, the overwhelming number of this court decisions are decisions that are per curiam affirmed without an opinion. So what happens? That means, yeah, you have a right to really file a brief. You don't necessarily have a right to have an oral argument and have your client listen in and see what's happening on my case, have the client review. They can review the documents, but they cannot review what the court thought about the issue that was raised. So when you have the situation that we have right now, which is essentially you only have the trial, the pre-trial process to get it right the first time. And if that is the only time, then it is really important for individuals who are accused to have access to better and more quality information that comes from some of the generative AI tools. The other aspect of that is not just having informed consumers in criminal and in collateral legal issues like Mike mentioned, but the way I look at it and the biggest promise that I see, and we're not there yet. I mean, we have at least a year, if not a little longer, to try to figure out what would that look like in a public defender's office. But I would love to be able to run entire cases before they go to trial or before there's a plea of guilty or no contest, to run the work that's been done, the evidence that's been collected and everything, to run it through generative AI to prevent wrongful convictions. Imagine if instead of individuals Mr. Miles having to spend 15 years in prison, imagine if we could avoid that. By making sure that the attorneys have the tools necessary and are using the tools in a way to prevent wrongful convictions.
What do you think is one concrete way that AI has the potential to improve access to justice for your clients specifically?
Yeah, I was looking. I think Mike and Carlos was looking at my notes over here. 'Cause it was all in my paperwork, but no, seriously. So let me speak from a place of empathy. first and foremost. After my conviction and my direct appeal got denied, I became the attorney. And I'm on a unit, co-field unit, very antiquated, very limited access to legal books. We had to shepherdize cases, and so when you're working against the Anti-Terroristic Death Penalty Act, you have a 2-year time frame to try to get something in. You never even opened up a law book, right? And so I think that when we're talking about access to AI from a very concrete perspective, as Mike was saying, you have individuals that are innocent in prison. You have also individuals that are in there that want a time cut because they feel they got too much time for the crime that they were sentenced, and really trying to break down the legal jargon and the books and really try to shepherdize or get cases in a timely fashion. That's real access to justice. We have a criminal legal system, but access to justice is really not in the system. So I think any tools that creates a pathway to justice is important. And that's the same thing with miles of freedom. You know, people come home and really understanding the stipulations of parole, understanding, you know, if you want an expungement on your record, how can you get an expungement? You know, I think that really leveraging the accessibility of AI to implement tools of justice is important. And I think these are great conversations. And yes, they was looking at my notes.
So since they've been looking at your notes, for the next question, I'll start with you. What do you think the major difference in terms of access to justice is between productivity tools and your large language models? What do you think is, one, more useful, and two, how is it more useful?
Yeah, so we're honestly in the space of social services, we're using AI, but in very limited capacity. Because at the end of the day, it's still those relationships that we are trying to bridge and build. I think from a 360-degree level, when I think about AI, my only thing is when we're using it, when employers use it for employment, when housing institutions use it to evaluate people that are eligible for housing, when it's used for benefits such as SNAP and all of those things. Some of our recipients receive income from Medicaid that may be misappropriated as actual income, and it could take them out of particular services because the system hasn't really allocated that income in the right perspective. We did a big fight for ban the box, right? But AI has the potential of even going beyond that. So now an employer really has more access to a person, and that could potentially keep them from getting an apartment or a house. And so I think that at the end of the day, from a large scale, we're still using the tools to better be efficient as a business focus of Miles of Freedom, but when it comes to the people, we really have to be nonprofit centric in making sure that those relationships is really key and foremost in our services.
So, Mike, what do you think? What do you think is the key difference between your productivity tools and your large language models?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm seeing, so we do have a couple of folks that have written to me and told me that they have access to ChatGPT in prison. Um, and I think the big thing that I would caution against is using just that, because of the hallucinations, because of the information that is sometimes being produced by ChatGPT. You know, it's motivated to give you the answer that you want, and you see that when you're asking it questions. So, um, so there's been times where it's produced case law that everyone knows about. We've seen case law that's non-existent, that it will be overly confident and completely wrong that a case exists, that's squarely on point. And so I think we have to be careful as, um, as folks that are in prison are getting access to these tools, they don't know, they're not, hearing probably the same stories that we are as lawyers and as advocates about the problems that are coming with the large language models. So what's great about these legal AI tools, I think a couple of different things. One, they're grounded in some level of truth, right? There's a database they're calling from to get their information from. It's not the World Wide Web. Two, confidentiality. So we don't want LLMs training on our confidential information. And I don't think the vast majority of the folks that are incarcerated are aware of those two distinctions. So I think that's, for me, while I say I'm super excited about this idea of improving access to justice for incarcerated individuals, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't want it to be that everyone gets ChatGPT. I prefer they get something that's more grounded in truth and also protects the confidential information that they are going to be inputting into a system. So those are the main differences between the two. And then, kind of also building in the caveat of the previous question, kind of how I see this unrolling or unveiling in my head.
And Carlos, what are you thinking?
In terms of the productivity tools, we are currently working with Thomson Reuters on two major projects. One of the projects is actually expanding what we're already doing, which right now we're processing through machine learning. We had a company assist us and put in place processing 75,000 electronically filed documents a year, so that now when we get those documents, because it's been programmed, they go into the specific case, notify the correct attorney, and does a lot of things like that. That was formerly a manual process that we had between 7 and 10 clerical staff doing that kind of work. So with Thomson Reuters, we're looking at the next version of that that is an enhanced model. The other thing that we're working with Thomson Reuters on is bulk scheduling. We schedule 1,000 depositions a week. I mentioned that we have criminal depositions in Florida. So in felonies, we are doing scheduling of 1,000 depositions a week. And that is currently a very manual process of checking the schedule, checking availability, not just of the attorney, but of the prosecutor, the witness, and all those things. But through a productivity tool that Thomson Reuters is working with us on, we should be able to do that a lot easier and not as staff intensive. Thomson Reuters has done the heavy lifting on that, and they've been working very closely with us. So that's the benefit of doing a multi-layer, because we're doing the process which is available to pretty much every attorney, which is the co-counsel aspect of it. Then we're doing the productivity tools. And then the last aspect of it is the bulk analysis. So I call it a productivity tool, even though it's not really productivity for my attorneys and my staff. It is really productivity in terms of justice and producing justice. So one of the things that I'm working with Thomson Reuters on is on a project that we call the Behavioral Health Community Safety Initiative for Miami-Dade County. And essentially what it's helping us do and what we're heading to is really analyzing what has happened in Miami-Dade County in terms of arrest of people with mental illness, hospitalizations of people with mental illness, people being placed in what's called the Baker Act, which is a process, an involuntary process in Florida, where an individual who's a threat to themselves or to others can be hospitalized for a short period of time or a longer period of time. And there's a court process for that. But we're looking at examining all these things, arrest affidavits, police interaction with mentally ill people, 911 calls, all sorts of things that are happening. And the purpose of examining those things is trying to figure out what is the safest way to interact with individuals. What are the best, most productive ways to make sure that people with behavioral health issues get the help that they need, that families can actually feel confident that when they call for help, there's not going to be a family member that is going to be arrested or worse, injured as a result of an interaction. And then another aspect of that is making sure that when there is a police interaction with a mentally ill individual, both the mentally ill person and law enforcement are safe, physically safe from the interaction. So that is more of a multimodal bulk analysis that we're moving towards and that we want to do so that we can produce better training, more focused training, and we can produce system change based on comprehensive analysis of what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, and what things we can bring to Miami-Dade County from other parts of the world where they've dealt with these issues and they have better answers.
Well, I'd like to thank each of you for your time today. You've given me a lot of perspective, and I hope you've given our listeners a lot of perspective on what AI tools have been used in terms of providing access to justice. And I hope that based on this conversation, people can begin to think of how they can use AI tools or even spread the use of AI tools to continue to provide access to justice. So thank you all.
I'd like to thank Carlos, Michael, and Richard for joining us today. Just about everybody out there is trying to keep up with the rapid pace of change, but perhaps nowhere are there higher stakes for doing so than in the court system. AI can help, but only if instituted with human-centered care at the forefront. I enjoyed hearing from those at the forefront of making that a reality, and I'm also excited to see new ideas to close the justice gap from here. Thank you as always for joining us for Clarity on Tech, powered by the Thomson Reuters Institute. You can follow or subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to share with your colleagues and leave a 5-star review or a positive review on YouTube. For more data-driven analysis of today's professional services market and in-depth conversations with industry thought leaders, please visit us online at thomsonreuters.com/institute and follow us on LinkedIn under the Thomson Reuters Institute. Clarity on Tech is a production of Thomson Reuters, copyright Thomson Reuters 2025.